The United States wants to see the best possible relationship between Turkey and Israel. According to Mark Grossman, he is the U.S. Special Representative for Afghanistan and Pakistan. He's visiting in Istanbul, and there's been a series of news reports that say Turkey would veto any Israeli participation in next month's Chicago NATO summit. And we're going to talk about Turkish-Israeli relations now with Mehmet Celebi. He is a Turkish-American businessman with close ties to Turkey, and he's a member, and he's with the Dean's International Council at the University of Chicago. Thanks a lot for joining us again.
Thank you for having me.
How does something like this come up? I imagine the reports in the State Department kind of got all tied up and tongue-tied the other day when it was trying to describe it, but Israel might be invited to the NATO summit. How do they float an idea like that? How does it come down that, Turkey would maybe not think this was such a great idea and kind of veto it?
Right. If I may actually, Jerome, maybe go back to the incidents that led to even this kind of discussion to be taking place, or even curiosity wonders whether Israel will be invited or not, or Turkey would veto it.
It all goes back to the Gaza Flotilla incident.
Exactly. So, at that point you have a flotilla of ships composed of people from 30 countries. Of course, Turkey had the majority of people on some of those ships. However, that's not something new, uncommon for Turkish people. In fact, incidentally, going back to 1492, there was a flotilla of Turkish ships that went to rescue Jews hundreds of thousands of Jews from the Inquisition, actually, from Spain. So this sort of stuff is done time and again by Turkish people. Anytime there is a country in the region that is in need, or people in need, as Turkey is doing right now. Foreign Policy just wrote a really nice article about Turkey's involvement in Somalia and the way Turkey is trying to reach out not only to the impoverished Somalis, but also trying to bring a settlement. So, of course, Turkey warns the citizens, and there's an organization called IHH, which was the Turkish humanitarian organization that was involved in along with the other international peace organizations, warns them that Israel's intentions are serious, that they shouldn't go, that Turkey recommends that they shouldn't go. But they said they made already a commitment to the international organizations that they wanted to go, but their aim was to internationalize the plight of the Palestinians in Gaza. And as such, they said, while the intention is heading towards Gaza, they will be turning around, going to El Arish, port of Egypt. And Turkey notified the Israeli officials of this. In fact, had a discussion with Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak that the intention was to head south towards El Arish. In fact, when you look at the time when the Israeli Navy intercepted the ships, they were actually heading south, not east, towards Gaza. Of course, we know the incident. The Israeli commandos board the ship. You have 9 deaths, including 1 American citizen. And the whole incident starts to become an international incident, of course, between Turkey and Israel. Now, yes, Turkey took certain steps between that time and the current situation in terms of downgrading its diplomatic relations, which ended up with the expulsion of the Israeli ambassador. But this event took place on May 31st, 2010. The expulsion of the ambassador did not take place until September 2011, a whopping 16 months.
And things just got progressively worse during that 16 months, I imagine. Now, Israel expressed regrets about the incident, but they didn't fully apologize, and that's where the rub is, basically?
Right. I mean, so the United States actually spent a tremendous effort, the Obama administration, trying to bring a settlement to this issue. Several negotiations took place, and Israel each and every time asked for more time. 3 times the Israelis notified the Turks that they were going to apologize, and 3 times the Netanyahu government was unable to do. They reneged on their agreement, including one incident in which immediately, a few weeks after the flotilla incident, the Israeli prime minister requested a meeting with the foreign minister, a secret meeting that took place in Switzerland. Ben Eliezer, the minister of labor of Israel, was Netanyahu's representative there. And Turkey, the Turkish foreign minister, was with two other cabinet ministers in Switzerland, who did not even know about this, because Israel wanted total, complete anonymity on this. They didn't want any disclosure. And a room was held in a hotel. A meeting was held, and Israelis indicated their intention of apologizing and bringing this to a settlement. And Turkey accepted. And Israel asked us not to tell anybody about this. The Turkish foreign minister gets on the airplane. As he's flying to Turkey, he gets a call from his press secretary saying that Israeli television is saying that you just met with Israeli government, with cabinet member. And of course, the minute he lands, there's international press waiting, including Turkish press. This was a tremendous risk for a publicly elected, democratic elected government that was actually about to go at a referendum a few months later. So you have a case of government in Israel that is made up of a coalition. One side is trying to sabotage the other side. And this has become a major problem because, who do you negotiate with? Who is your counterpart in this? And of course, nothing happened. So Israel several times, again, as I said, wanted to apologize, did not apologize. At the end, what happened was in September, the UN Palmer report was leaked by the Israelis. And that was something that Turkey actually was hoping that would not come out, that the settlement would be brought out before this.
It sounds like it's had a big effect on what happens today in the Mediterranean, that really it's a lot tenser than it used to be, and that there's lots more Turkish ships floating around, Turkish airplanes, and this all goes back to this incident.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Turkish flag, there's an intent by the Turkish government to make sure that the Turkish flag is flown in the Mediterranean on ships, and Turkish jets, just like every country in the region, has the right to do this in international airspace. That Turkish jets are also present there, so that you don't. Basically, the old acceptance that the Eastern Mediterranean is an Israeli lake has come to an end at that point. Turkey wants to make sure that its presence is felt in the region. But in going back to the incident, you look at this. So friends apologize to friends, right? If a friend makes a mistake, the least you expect of a friend is an apology. If a country is hostile or enemy, you don't expect an apology. In fact, you retaliate. Turkey did not do this. Turkey gave diplomacy 16 months to resolve this issue. And when that didn't happen, of course, I want to go back to an incident actually in 1992 between the United States, very similar to this. There was a military exercise between that involved Turkish and U.S. naval ships. And USS Saratoga fired a missile at a Turkish ship called Muavenet, killing the commander and 4 crew members. Immediately, even though it was a very disturbing details, the United States apologized. Case closed. Today, nobody even remembers this incident. So if Israel says it's a friend, you expect an apology, but that doesn't happen. Today, what do we have? The United States again keeps promising, and we'll come to the NATO alliance. But I want to read something where things stand today. Something actually I want to read off and test my reading skills.
All right. This is Mehmet Celebi testing his reading skills, Turkish-American businessman, and let it rip.
I've never been more worried about Israel's future. The crumbling of key pillars of Israel's security, the peace with Egypt, the stability of Syria, and the friendship with Turkey and Jordan, coupled with the most diplomatically inept and strategically incompetent government in Israel's history, have put Israel in a very dangerous situation. This has also left the United States government fed up with Israel's leadership, but a hostage to its ineptitude, because the powerful pro-Israel lobby in the election season can force the administration to defend Israel at the UN, even when it knows Israel is pursuing policies not in its own interest or America's. This is an op-ed by Thomas Friedman of New York Times. Now, you can sit down and say, okay, you're Turkish American, you're biased towards Turkey, but nobody can even question the intentions of Thomas Friedman, especially when it comes to Israel. This is the situation Israel finds itself in today. Isolated country at a time when historic changes are taking place in the region, of which Turkey is playing a primary role.
It's interesting to think about things that Turkey and Israel do have in common to work on in some of these situations. The Syrian situation is certainly something that it behooves everybody to see something not bad happen in Syria, or try to keep it as not a regional war, frankly. How do you think that there are behind closed door things that go on between the intelligence agencies, or do you think that there is some level of coordination on an issue like that?
Of course, there has been for many decades now, since the founding of the State of Israel, cooperation, especially in the 1990s, between Turkey and Israel in terms of military and intelligence sharing. But since these incidents happen, of course, while still it continues, because after all, we're still allies, we share a common ally in the United States with common interests and goals in the region, it obviously has deteriorated substantially. But there are many people today in the media who claim that Turkey actually planned this whole, incident, and Turkey's intentions, or at least this government's intention, was to reduce relations with Israel. And actually, the facts don't support this. And I have some facts that show otherwise, in fact. Yes, tourism, Turkey was for many years, up until 2008 and 2009, was the number one destination for Israelis. A good percentage of every Israeli citizen, I think up to maybe 10% of every citizen of Israel was visiting Turkey. Trade volume in 2002, before this government was elected, was $1.4 billion. Last year, $4.4 billion, despite the tensions between them. So there are relations at all levels. Businessmen continue, life continues. But government to government relations, Turkey is adamant that the steps to improve relations, and going back to the things where the way they were, is for Israel to apologize, pay compensation, and of course end the Gaza blockade. When it comes to NATO, first of all, this whole talk about Turkey blocking it, this issue was never brought to the forefront. It was never on the agenda, Israel's invitation to the NATO summit. In fact, because Turkey's position is known.
It isn't going to be brought up for a formal vote within NATO, because everybody knows Turkey would reject it if it was.
Right, exactly. But informally, a few foreign ministers have brought this up, and Turkey's response was easy. I mean, basically, look, Turkey is not given its consent for partnership program or for anything to do with Israel in any setting, international setting, until its relations are obviously until Turkey's demand are met. But remember, NATO is a military strategic alliance, and you cannot expect Turkey to say yes to a country whose military execution style, because the Palmer report even says that, killed 9 civilians in high waters, and then expect Turkey to say yes, okay, we can have partnership programs.
Are you surprised at, you read the Thomas Friedman article there, the volley that he made, but you go on to some of these chat sessions, like in the Washington Post, they had a discussion about where the State Department was fully quoted there trying to negotiate this in this kind of situation. And then people talk, and it seems like it's a different conversation going on about Israel in the comment sections and in popular opinion. That it's changing, just like with Thomas Friedman.
Absolutely, and I think if I were an Israeli, I would be very alarmed at the rate of deterioration of not only the public opinion about Israel, and I'm not talking about the traditional nations or people that are hostile to Israel. I'm talking about Western nations, people in Europe, people in the United States. The article you referred to actually had 132 comments. I've been in the U.S. for 24 years. I've never seen this before. Out of the 124 comments, 2 were neutral, meaning, yes, we should push the United States to improve relations between Israel and Turkey because they're both good allies. 6 were pro-Israeli. 124 comments were against Israel. These are not by any foreigners. This is the Washington Post. And when you read it, you can tell that they're Americans. They're talking about spending our taxpayers to support a hostile country, a country that's causing problems for U.S. interests, etc. The fact that this discussion is taking place on the street in the United States is very alarming. It should be very alarming to Israel. Another point I want to point out, a couple of months ago, a few weeks ago, Israeli Foreign Minister Lieberman came to meet with Secretary Clinton. Israel, a longtime ally, one of the best allies of the United States, or at least the United States is one of the biggest allies of Israel. This is a fact, correct? Yep. They sit down and have a meeting, Clinton and Lieberman. They said that they discussed 7 topics, including the Arab Spring, Turkish-Israel relations, peace, Middle East, peace settlement, Palestine, etc. They spent a total of, according to the State Department, 35 minutes. According to Lieberman, 50 minutes. Let's take the average. Let's say 40, 45 minutes. That means about 7 to 8 minutes per topic were discussed between 2 key allies. This is the level the relationship between the United States and Israel has come to, not only just the public opinion. The next day, Turkish Foreign Minister Davutoglu, who happened to be in town at the same time, had a 4 to 5 hour meeting with Secretary Clinton. So we've come to a point where actually now, because of this hostility, you're asking the United States to pick and choose between two countries. And while the U.S., of course, is not going to do that because they're both important allies, the facts show which direction things are heading, where U.S. interests lie. And I don't think it's fair for the United States to be put in this position. And it's time for the Israeli government to wake up, and for the public, American Jewish community that supports Israel dearly and has tremendous influence, and for the Israeli public to really push their government to be more involved in what's going on in the region, to actually go back to the days Turkey was, to apologize to Turkey, and start looking forward to a much, much better Middle East, where actually Israel can play a vital role and benefit tremendously from growing young population that is seeking technology, democratic reforms, etc., that Israel possesses.
Mehmet Chelabi is a Turkish-American businessman here in Chicago with close ties to Turkey. He's with the Dean's Council, the Dean's International Council at the University of Chicago as well. Thanks a lot for joining us again and talking about Turkey and Israeli relations.
Thanks for having me.